Greetings from Tromaville. I'm Lloyd Kaufman, president of Troma Entertainment and creator of the Toxic Avenger and expert foot fetishist. You know, folks, I love the 13th Wolfman because he's on the prowl. You know what I mean? And he howls, and we howl. None of this Allen Ginsberg stuff. It's all about the 13th Wolfman howling. So watch the amazing, amazing 13th Wolfman and maybe the Dorkening.
Hey everybody, it's the 13th Wolfman. You know who I have back with me? That's right, the founder of Troma, the president of Troma, the man that's brought us more movies than we can count on all our appendages. That is Lloyd Kaufman. Welcome back to Sit Down, Lloyd.
Well, I didn't know, I didn't get back into Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, and I was worried that the Dorkening wasn't going to have a Part 2 for me, but you guys came through. That
Oh
James
man,
Gunn, he kills me off in Volume 1, and, how quickly they forget.
exactly. Yeah, you're always welcome back here, man. I mean,
Thank you.
you are Troma. You were part of my youth, so you're always welcome back to Sit Down.
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so you were going to be at the Buffalo Film Festival
Well, it's Buffalo
premiere.
Dreams. You guys are going to be there. I heard on it's on the street that you all will be there. It's the Buffalo Dreams. It's a wonderful festival. But since I've made about 7 movies in Buffalo and Niagara, I feel I owe it to them to give them the world premiere, not the world premiere, but it's the East Coast. No, it's the United States. No, it's not the United States. It's certainly the East Coast New York premiere of Return to Nuke'm High, ahead of New York City, ahead of everything. And we don't put our movies up on the streaming first like the big boys do. We go theatrical because our fans want the communal viewing of Return to Nuke'm High, aka Volume 2.
Volume 2. Yeah, I have to laugh every time I hear the title. I just think it's so cool.
Well, it's 7 years of work, between Volume 1 and writing, making Volume 1, making Volume 2, post-production, all that stuff. 7 years. I've done. It's been my main project, really. Travis Campbell, who wrote and directed Mr. Bricks, a heavy metal murder musical, and many other things for Troma. He wrote this with me and a guy from California, and he also edited. So he's been on it for 7 years.
That's a long time, man. So, is there going to be a volume 3?
Well, the story will end on Volume 2. And
Okay.
Tarantino was the one who put it in my head because we were at Sitges a long time ago. We were at the Sitges Film Festival, which is the best genre festival probably in the world, but certainly in Europe. And he was saying to me, "Oh no!" I asked him, what do I do next? And he said, "Do something kind of crazy, ambitious." So I saw that he did Volume 1 and Volume 2 with Kill Bill. I says to myself, "Hey, Lloyd, why don't you do that too?" And even though we have no money, we put together 2 volumes, and here I am being pretentious on the Dorkenings. The Dorkening.
Well, you know what? I mean, you're allowed to be pretentious.
Thank
This 5 movies now. Nuke'm High. You got 5 movies.
Isn't that something? And by the way, the Toxic Avenger. The Toxic Avenger, I now a few fans pointed out to me that the Toxic Avenger is the only movie that is a movie, a Broadway musical, which is currently in the West, just going to the West End of London, a comic book, a cartoon, all sorts of merchandise, and a comic book. And there's something else that Toxie is, but a couple of people have pointed out that Toxie is the only one that has all those media, that not even Spider-Man has. I mean, he did have a bad Broadway show, but there were things that Spider-Man did not have that Toxie has, but I can't remember. At any rate, Toxie's going to the West End of London October 2nd, and Uncle Lloyd will be there.
Wow. Yeah. You're on top of it, man. I mean, you've made so many movies, so many different. I mean, Trauma is a genre-esque company, but there's so many different genres that you guys have kind of dumped into. I mean, you got a little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of horror, some comedies out there.
By the
You
way,
know,
this is not white wine. I'm a straight edge. I don't want the fans to think that I'm drinking white wine. This is actually urine, just so you know. So,
as long as it's not Toxies, I'm good.
yes, and actually, the Prime Minister of India, whose name was Desai, he actually drank a cup of urine every day. So ever since I've been doing it. Where were we now? Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying. I mean, with Trauma, it's you've done so many different genres. Is there anything you haven't dived into yet?
Well, I think what's unique about Troma is that we're a Cuisinart, a blender of all the genres. And
Right.
as we progressed over our 44 years, we didn't do it deliberately, but we ended up with movies like Poultry Guys, Night of the Chicken Dead, or Return to Nuke'm High, with all the genres, singing and dancing, sex, gore, horror, politics, social justice, slapstick, almost every genre. The detectives, they're all police.
Have
There
you
is,
done a Western?
we've sort of developed into a Cuisinart. No, we haven't done a Western, but I did help. Alex Cox did a great Western, which we helped a little bit with. It was terrific, and now I can't remember the name of it. It's his latest film, and it's wonderful. Oh, crap. Well, anyway, it's very good. Cox, who did Repo Man. Repo Man, and it's a wonderful Western. Well, maybe it'll come back to me.
That's fine. I like I said when you were on the first time, I talked about how I watched like all the greats that you did, in the early to mid '80s, like Surf Nazis Must Die and stuff like that, and it's just such a great company. I mean, it's nice that Troma's lasted 44 years.
Well, again, we wouldn't be around. We're totally Troma is the longest running independent movie studio in history, but it's all thanks to the fans. We're totally fan fueled. All our employees, pretty much, are Troma fans. The people who gave us their movies, like Trey Parker and Matt Stone, or the people who worked for us and wrote our movies, like James Gunn and Trey Parker and Gabe
James
Friedman and Trent Haga and Samuel Jackson. They were all Troma fans. And
James
not,
Balsamo.
as I mentioned to you last time, not just Troma fans, but the Troma air conditioners have been very important to us.
Oh, okay.
That's the Troma humor.
Yeah. So so when Return to Nukem High, aka Volume 2 comes out, what's next, man? I mean, what's the next plate that you
Very
that
good
you jump
question.
into?
We're going back to Shakespeare. Remember, we did Romeo and Juliet, written by the great James Gunn. Remember
Right.
that?
Yeah.
Well, we're going back to Shakespeare. We're doing The Tempest. Shakespeare's Tempest. The Tempest
Ooh.
is my favorite Shakespeare play, and it concerns old people, an old man, which is me, losing power, losing senses, losing, whatever. The Tempest is my favorite Shakespeare, and it's the movie we're going to make is Shakespeare's Tempest slash Troma's Shitstorm. And we've got a great script. We've got Brandon Basham, who wrote the script, and he made two movies for us. One is called Feartown, USA. The other is called the Slashing. Both are available and had world premieres on Troma Now, the hot new streaming service, Troma Now. And he's extremely talented. He works for the Ultra something Brigade. What is it called?
Upright Citizens Brigade.
Yes, that's it. He teaches there, and he's funny as hell. And I think The Tempest is going to probably be my, if I live long enough, will be my swan song. Probably be my last
Really?
movie.
You think?
Oh, no, getting on.
Well, yeah, but you lasted 44 years, man. I mean,
This is my 50th year making movies, so that's why I've been getting a lot of invitations to film festivals and various events and conventions. A lot of conventions have been paying me to appear because it's my 50th year, so that's cool. But basically, we're also producing Dolly Deadly, which Heidi Moore is directing, and Mutant Blast, which Fernando Ale in Portugal has been directing now for about 4 years. But the Portuguese government added $250,000 to our budget. So I think that's going to be a real good one. I don't know if you remember Banana Motherfucker, which you can see free on Troma's movie channel. He made that. Fernando Ale made Banana Motherfucker, which is hilarious. That was his first film, and he was incredibly young. And
I do
it's
remember that
free on
movie.
Troma Movies on YouTube. You know, we have two channels, the free channel, Troma Movies on YouTube, to thank you, our fans, for supporting us for 44 years. And then we have Troma Now, which is our world premiere and curated streaming channel. And that's free the first month, but we want you fans to support us and subscribe for $4.99 a month, which is a lot better than putting money into Patreon where you don't get anything. Here you get movies every month, world premiere movies. The next James Gunn's, the next Trey Parker's, the next Eli Roth, who started with us, the next Vincent D'Onofrio's. They're all in Troma Now. They're wonderful films.
Tiffany Shepis. I mean,
Yeah, all these people started with
yeah.
us. Troma Now has the next generation of brilliant young talent, the next generation of Samuel Jacksons and Kevin Costners and all that stuff. And
That's
Tiffany
a,
Shepis. Well, Tiffany Shepis is still very, very young.
yeah.
She's probably the greatest of the greatest.
That's really a good price. $4.99, and you get to watch all the Troma you want. I mean, you guys.
And they're all world premieres and curated. It's terrific, and we've had absolutely nobody of all the people who've subscribed. Nobody has unsubscribed. So that's pretty damn good. Out of the six people who already no, I'm joking. Out of the huge number who have subscribed, it's not that huge, but out of the very nice number that have subscribed, nobody. And by the way, I told people on my Twitter, there are people who want me to follow them on Twitter. I said, well, if you subscribe to Troma Now, which is there to help our new, young, brilliant movie makers, if you subscribe, I'll follow you on Twitter. And I've been doing that.
That's a good way to do it, man. I mean, that's you got that brain for business. I mean, come on.
Well, I don't have a brain for business, but I do promote because my partner Michael Hers refuses to go out into the public. So I'm the face of Troma. Michael Hers is the brains, but we are not making any money really. It's pretty tough unless you're partnered up with one of the vassals of one of those huge conglomerates. Right. It's virtually impossible to make any money.
Well, I mean, you got to be making something.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the Toxic Avenger remake out there. Toxie's going to West End in London, and the store Toxie's they got a store called Troma Direct, www.tromadirect.com, which sells excellent Troma merchandise and DVDs and Blu-rays and the Rowan collection and various collectibles. So, we piece it together. But you really, for anyone who's starting out, you must, if you want to make money, if you want to support yourself, you cannot do what Troma did. Those days are gone because the laws about monopoly have been done away with. So as a result, you now have AT&T buying Time Warner, who bought up just about everything. And unless you're in with a vassal of one of these huge mega conglomerates, financially it's hopeless. You just have to do it. If you want to do the Troma way, you're there for the art. That's it. The way you guys are. You guys are there for the art. You're not.
If you want to do
right.
If you want to do it to Troma way, you needed to be around in the '80s when VHS was king. And
you're right. Well, we always got into technology before the big boys did, and we bought we bought a big library of movies when we had money. So we have about 1,000 movies, and the library throws off a little dough every once in a while, and every once in a while there's a foreign country that opens up that needs movies, and we get a few more, and then there's a new part of the internet that blah blah blah. So we kind of, and of course we have about 12 evergreens: Toxic Avenger, Class of Nuke'm High, Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD, who now has his own show on on our YouTube channel, Troma Movies on YouTube. He just got a second season, got greenlit. And of course, all the Nuke'm High, the return to Nuke'm Highs, and Terra Firma is suddenly Terra Firma's caught fire. So we got about 12 what they call evergreens, and they kind of keep us going. And then I get fees for my master class and going to these conventions. But it's not like it was before, because the majors have lobbied hundreds of millions of dollars in Washington to get the rules changed, the anti-monopoly rules changed.
Right.
And now they're getting rid of net neutrality. I'm sure you know that. My wife's grandmother is looking down on us. She's very upset about the fact that Trump and his FCC chairman, Ajit Pai, who has nothing to do with an apple pie, he's more like a shit pie. He's decided to get rid of net neutrality, the free, open, and diverse internet. And you and I talked about this last time, right?
We did.
And the problem is they're doing it. So there won't be any more innovation, right? Anyone who's going to be an innovator, unless they have a shitload of money, they're not going to be able to get the public's attention, because they won't be able to afford the superhighway that Ajit Pai, FCC chairman, and the AT&T and the Verizons and the Sony and Time Warner and blah, 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 all the mainstream, the cartel that runs our media, they don't want a free, open, and diverse internet. They want a superhighway for them, similar to the old CBS, NBC, and ABC empire, where nobody else could get a TV station or other than public access. And we won't have any innovation. There will be no more Netflix or the Patreon or Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and there'll certainly be no more Troma. We'll probably go away if they get rid of net neutrality. We won't be able to communicate with our fans, because we will not be able to afford the superhighway that these boys, and they're all white men, want to set up.
Wow. It just, every time you bring it up, man, it gets scarier and scarier. And
yeah, it's really bad. We have to hope that the nerds of the world make enough noise so that the Congress understands that they might not get reelected if net neutrality goes away, and maybe Congress will pass a law that requires the ISPs, the internet service providers, to have the free, open, and diverse internet available for everybody. And it's really stupid of Trump to get rid of net neutrality, because the net neutrality rules, among others, requires these these billion-dollar conglomerates to provide either Wi-Fi or cable for the people out in the Trump land, right? His base is out there in Hicksville, so he's hurting his own base. It's so stupid. He's helping the limousine liberals. He's helping the people like CNN who give you the fake news. You know, CNN would like nothing better than to get rid of net neutrality. They're owned by Time Warner, which is about to be owned by AT&T. So, they don't want the eyeballs that are going away to you guys or to the YouTube stars or to the angry video game nerd or to Troma, who get 500,000 people a month saying hello. They don't want that, because every time somebody says hello to Troma, they're not saying hello to Suicide Squad or the other Michael Bay shit that's out there. But that's not Michael Bay, but that.
Right. I know what you're saying.
Out there. Yeah.
So I know Leo's listening, because Leo records these for me. So I just want to ask Leo if he could put on his nerd cape, and get hold of all the nerds worldwide and help out.
That's good. Good point.
The nerds will prevail. Trust me.
Well, yeah. Leo Pond has a big influence, no question about it. Big,
oh yeah.
Big.
So, just to go back, I love your passion for what you speak of, but I want to go back to Troma a little bit. Would you ever do like another Toxic Avenger, or was 4 enough?
Yes, we wrote part five. We wrote Toxic Five, the Toxic Twins. You know, each of the Toxic Avenger movies um, go. Toxic gets older. I think he's the only superhero that keeps developing throughout all his movies. And in the fifth movie, he's got these adolescent twins, and a lot of it takes place in Chernobyl. And we had a billionaire from Ukraine whose daughter went to NYU, who was a huge Troma fan, and he was going to give us. I was going to put up half the money. He was going to put up the other 400,000, and we were going to film in Ukraine and Kiev and Chernobyl. But then this 2 years ago, the mess of Chernobyl, the Russians attacked Chernobyl, and our billionaire is gone, and the girl has disappeared, so we're fucked.
Oh,
So
wow.
so we can do the Tempest. I have enough money for that, and maybe someday someone will come up with the Toxic Avenger Part Five money, the Toxic Twins in Chernobyl.
So was the whole thing with trauma? I mean, there's always been an underlayer of nuclear, somewhere in that.
Well, that's not true. Not necessarily nuclear. Poultrygeist was
Well,
the
not
anti-chicken genocide and anti-Indian genocide and anti-fast food. And
okay.
Squeeze Play was about women's liberation. So, I mean, the recent movies have been involved with toxic waste, especially the bad food that the students are being provided in their public schools.
Yeah, well, maybe not all of them, but I've always liked this thing, and I was like, was the inspiration to put like cooling stacks and stuff in the background? Was that really just, hey, we're in New Jersey or 3 Mile Island? Was that kind of like an inspiration for it?
Well, no. The inspiration for the Toxic Avenger was that my wife and I would go camping, and we'd see all this crap everywhere. We'd see these McDonald's plates and cups everywhere. I mean, we would go very remote, right? Way up in the Adirondacks, so in some swamp or whatever, and we would camp out. And there'd be that crap everywhere. The beer tabs. This is talking about 1982 and earlier. The beer tabs,
Yep.
they didn't
Popped
stay
off.
on the can. You throw them away. The fish would swallow those goddamn things. The birds would swallow them. Or the remember those things that kept the beer six packs together, plastic. People would throw those in the woods. And I remember there was a frog who got caught in one of those things. He was hopping around, dragging one of those beer things, a beer plastic thing.
Right.
And it was so that kind of got us thinking about pollution. And this was 1982, long before Al Gore stole the Nobel Peace Prize with his $200 million profit. He's a scumbag of the highest. The highest. He's just as bad as the other guy who ran against him, whose name I won't mention, who was in my class at Yale, by the way.
Right, we talked about that last time.
Yeah. So the point is, this fucking limousine liberal was he and his fat wife were willing to censor music for adults, right?
Yeah.
And so all that stuff was in my head for Toxic Avenger, and then of course I'm a big fan of Frankenstein, and I wanted the monster to live. I love Charlie Chaplin, so that's where the blind significant other comes in, and I could talk for an hour on Toxic Avenger. Nuke'm High was inspired in part by the fact that a nuclear power plant was being built a quarter of a mile from New York City, at the highest, the densest area of people in the United States. But the workers were drunk, and the people building it were using substandard cement, and it wasn't enough. They had these great government contracts. They were just stuffing themselves at the public trough. They had to be greedy and use substandard materials and substandard labor. So that's what. This was Shoreham nuclear power plant. It did get closed down finally, but that's what sort of influenced the Class of Nuke'm High series. And then, of course, when I started learning about the evils of fast food and the evils of the American public education system and what a mess it is and how it has destroyed our country. It's destroyed our country. The lack of education has destroyed America. If they want to know why America is going downhill, it's the lack of education. But the part of that is what we feed the students. So that's where Return to Nuke'm High sort of came in.
Wow. But,
cool. Squeeze Play was about women's liberation, and Waitress was about women's identity, and Stuck on You was about palimony, and First Turn On was the Michael Hers and his beautiful wife's romantic story at camp. So that was quite as socially relevant, but still pretty interesting.
I remember Squeeze Play. I think I was, that came out 80?
No, 77 or something. You were
okay, so yeah, I was about 10 when I saw
that. Years old or something. Squeeze Play, I just did an evening in Santa Ana. They did a trauma month, and there was a burlesque group that did a trauma. The night I was there, they put on a trauma burlesque, very classical burlesque. One of the burlesque was Squeeze Play, which is amazing. After all these years, they had a woman dressed up in the Beaverettes softball costume, and it was very cool.
Man, you've done a lot of really cool stuff. What's the thing you're proudest of? No matter whether it's making a movie or talking to students or what.
That's a very good question. Leo, what is the thing I'm most proud of? I can't really put my finger on it. What do you say, Leo?
I would say Poultrygeist. That's my favorite.
Wrong. But the Poultrygeist is a great movie, and it's a movie that, Mark Neveldine, who directed Crank 1 and 2, in which I play a cameo, and Gamer, in which I play a cameo. He says in A Fair World, Poultrygeist should have been a huge hit, but unfortunately, it's not A Fair World. But I am proud of, and it's one of our best. It may be our best movie, but what I'm most proud of is that I've had the same partner for 44 years, and I've had the same wife for 44 years. And it's not that my partner and I have been married to the same wife. We both had individual same wives for that long a time, and that's pretty amazing. So I think that's the thing I'm most proud of, and it's a good question. Thank you for asking that.
And a lovely life.
I hope my wife is watching. God damn it! I hope my wife is watching.
She's a lovely wife too, because
Michael Hers is definitely not watching. But my wife is at the junior league at this very moment with her friends, and they might be watching.
Yeah, she's a lovely woman because we met her last time you were on. She was doing the whole Blue Apron thing for you. How's that working out?
Blue Apron went public. It's a big deal. It's valued at $2 billion. And in fact, if you go to my Instagram, yesterday I put up a story with my beautiful wife preparing a ratatouille because I'm vegetarian, and she has 15 seconds of her preparing ratatouille, a ratatouille tart, no less, which, if you know Troma movies, tart works out quite nicely.
Yeah, it does.
No, Blue Apron's doing great. It's terrific. It's very good. It's not that my son-in-law started it, but it's really good. For $9 a meal, you get a $100 meal. If you had that in a restaurant, $100. And if for those who don't know what Blue Apron is, you get all the ingredients. So you don't have to go to the store to buy all these things. Let's say it calls for parsley. You go to the store, you have to buy a bunch of parsley, and it sits in your refrigerator for a month and rots. The Blue Apron gives you every element and the best elements. They give you the best ingredients. I just saw their eggplant. It was the most beautiful. They had these little tiny eggplants. Beautiful. They're beautiful. I mean, everything they send you is magnificent. And again, $9 a person. And what fun. My wife kind of cooks. We have an evening, and a lot of our friends, young people, have dates. They go on dates instead of going to see Michael Bay. They go and make Blue Apron, and they talk to each other, and they have a kind of an interesting evening where you get to know each other rather than sitting in a dark movie theater.
It's really a cool idea.
It's great. It's
Yeah.
doing very well too. It's a huge hit. They just went public, and I think they're the best of breed among for these types of subscription meal companies. There are two or three others that are not as good and not doing as well.
So along with Buffalo, the Festival of Buffalo, what other plans do you have set up for the rest of the year?
Well, I just want to say Buffalo has been great. You know, we've made about 7 movies there, and as a result of Troma, Buffalo now has a thriving movie industry. They've got domestic. They have their own movie companies, and it's taken off there. It's really, and I'm not trying to be arrogant, but
No.
we started it. We started it with Poultrygeist. When we made Poultrygeist, we got there were people shooting at us, and Buffalo is now got a lot more development thanks to my wife, the film commissioner, and thanks to the Buffalo film commissioner, who is terrific. Tim Clark, he's the Buffalo film commissioner. If anyone wants to make a movie, Buffalo is terrific. They will really treat the student just like my wife. They'll treat the student filmmaker just as well as they'll treat Steven Spielberg or you guys or anybody. You know, it's really a great enclave in New York State to make movies, and I'm sure we'll be doing The Tempest there. So that's why I wanted to have this premiere, the East Coast premiere in Buffalo, because I owe it to them. You know, all the we don't say extras, and we say actor persons. But every day we had about 50 to 100 actor persons at the Niagara Falls School for Return to Nuke'm High Volume 1 and Volume 2. And we filmed for 28 days, 30 days. And these people were so nice and so generous. And, we couldn't pay them. And we didn't even feed them. Sometimes I think we had sponsors that brought a little food. But basically, they were there out of love for Troma. And most of the crew, most of the staff, the same thing. We lived in a funeral home on the floor, and I think I talked about all this. But so I owe Buffalo, and I wanted to make sure that that if they wanted to have the premiere, they should have it. I don't need to do it in Los Angeles. We did have the Museum of the Moving Image. Actually, I guess that was sort of a premiere, but that's not. We didn't get paid for that. They got to keep all the. They charged admission, the Museum of Moving Images, just like Museum of Modern Art had the premiere of Volume 1 of Return to Nuke'm High, and they kept all the money. But that was an honor for us. But the first actual theater where people buy tickets is Buffalo Dreams, in that whatever that theater is in Buffalo. So, we were very, very loyal to Buffalo.
It sounds like it's going to be a good time. Like I said, what do you got going on after that?
Well, I'm Sitges, in Spain, which is the best of the genre film festivals, is doing a fromage to me on my 50th year. We've got, if you go to my fan site, they have my schedule, LloydKaufman.com, LLOYD, 2 L's. They've got my schedule. There's different. I think I've got New Jersey HorrorCon coming up in 2 weeks, and what else? Oh, Stan Lee's got me coming out to L.A. He has a Comic-Con in L.A. Stan Lee's L.A. Comic-Con. We'll be going to there on the 28th of October or something around that. And then Kit Split. Do you know about Kit Split?
No, I haven't heard of that one.
Kitsplit.com. It's a Airbnb for film equipment. And it's a startup, but Hearst Media is a big contributor, a big investor. And they're having a big to-do, and they're going to be featuring some of our stars and whatever, and other independent directors. And so I'll be going to L.A., and I think that's November 3rd. And then September 30th, Return to Nuke'm High, a.k.a. Volume 2, and Return to Nuke'm High, Volume 1 will have a UK, United Kingdom premiere in London at the Prince Charles Cinema on September 30th. I'll be there, and we'll have a big panel with celebrities, and then October 2nd, the Toxic Avenger musical returns to London, but this time in the West End, which is like the Broadway of London. And I'll be there on October 2nd at Press Day. They call it Press Day. I call it Dry Cleaning Day, but they're British. And David Bryan, the Bon Jovi guy who wrote the music for the Toxic Avenger musical, he'll be there. And Joe DiPietro, who wrote the book for the Toxic Avenger musical, he will be there. And they also did Memphis, which, as you know, was the big Tony Award winner 2 years ago. Right. The same year, they got all the Off-Broadway awards in New York for the Toxic Avenger musical. So there's a lot coming up, considering they're not exactly lucrative.
Well, that's a lot going on, Lloyd. I do want to thank you for coming back on Sit Down.
Well, I don't usually repeat, but the Dorkening, you guys are serious fans, serious archivists, serious historians, and you love movies. So I'm on. I'm a film lover, and that's why I stayed in New York and devoted my career to being independent and in the underground.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for doing everything that you've done over the last 50 years in the movie business and the 44 years with Troma. For Lloyd Kaufman, I'm the 13th Wolfman, and of course, I'm on the prowl.
Well, thank you, 13th Wolfman. Does this tie make me look fat? Is it okay?
No.
It's okay.
Yeah,
I wore it because I thought it would make me slimmer. Well, thank you. Thank you, Lee.